welcome back to another episode of Valley Vision's Food and Ag webinar series. My name is Emma Kovic. I'm the project manager here at Valley Vision. This week, I'm excited to be speaking to Mary Kimball. She is the executive director for the Center for Land-Based Learning. The Center for Land-Based Learning is located in Winters, California, and for the last 25 years has been working to cultivate and inspire the next generation of farmers. In light of COVID-19, like many other nonprofits and organizations, Mary and the Center for Land-Based Learning have had to pivot. We're going to hear about how not only they're changing programs, but how they are changing their perspective and looking for funding, how they're going to be changing their ideas about addressing workforce needs and workforce challenges, and hearing some amazing stories about what she's seeing on the front lines from her previous students who have gone on to open farms, and how they are helping the community that they serve now.
Things are fine with the Center for Land-Based Learning. I mean, we've obviously adjusted accordingly. Lots of folks are working from home, but we still have a kind of a skeleton crew that comes into the office daily, including me, office manager, some of our, just like one or two other staff. And then we've got some folks that are in the field that are, they're still in the field. They're fine. So whether that's Sarah Bernal in West Sac Urban Farm, or Matt Clement, who's working on our new headquarters facility doing landscaping and things like that. Obviously, they're in the field. So, but the biggest shift has been with our programs, because everything we do is all in person, right? Mm-hmm. So our high school programs, which we run around the state, pretty much almost every day of the school year, we have field days going on from Tehama County to Kern County and Central Coast, Sonoma. So there's, programs going on in 28 counties around the state all throughout the year. And those are all, of course, shut down. So we had to completely, because they go through May, we had to completely kind of reconfigure how to do it. And then also the beginning farmer training program, which is locally, that also, of course, is all normally in person. And those are normally 3 days a week on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. With Tuesdays and Thursdays being like classroom or they come as a group and they're out in the field, right, working. And then on Saturdays, they do field trips to different farms. Well, so all of those are not happening. So everything's been shifted to online platform. Everything's been shifted to Zoom. So in the case of our California Farm Academy training program, the coordinator, the manager, Maureen, shifted everything to Zoom literally like day one. And it was very fast, so they are all fine though. They like it. And we have all of the people who would have been coming to do like the presentations, like Mark Van Horn from UC Davis Student Farm, or he's obviously retired now, but he's doing everything on Zoom. They've even done field walks with Zoom. Said the students love it. So, they don't love it, I'm sure, as much as if they were doing it in person, but they're really appreciative. And in this very challenging time when everything else is different or they can't do it, at least they can do this, and they're still doing their homework, and they're still turning in their assignments, and they're still learning, and they're feeling like they're on track. And then the Farms Leadership Program, which is one of our high school programs. So I shifted that, which you probably saw, very quickly to based on a recommendation and some ideas based on what CFA was doing. I just started contacting people and said, hey, that are friends of mine from around the state and that are partners in our program anyway, and said, hey, would you be willing to do this this completely different thing? And I have not gotten one no. So I'm already booked all the way through the middle of May. And I'm calling them, Coffee with a Farmer. And they are really fun. So they're for our students. They're a webinar platform. And they're technically for our high school students or students who've graduated and they're in college in ag and environmental sciences. But we're putting them out to the public. Just, our programs are all about workforce development. What are the jobs And I think, this is just helping, not just right now, kind of us get through this, but also these are going to be these are webinars that can be looked back at.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to be that this idea of moving into the digital space and making things more accessible online has really given you guys an opportunity to connect with others that you might have not been able to in your normal curriculum and in your normal programming. And it seems that, it's kind of almost a silver lining. You're
Yeah.
integrating a lot of different backgrounds and, professionals in this space and being able to connect and expose your students to them. So how many students do you are in your high school program currently that are participating in the ag program?
Well, it changes daily, but this program, the way that we originally had planned to do it, was just for our Farms Advanced students, and those are students who are in a second year program with us. So first year is called Farms Leadership, second year is called Farms Advanced. Farms Leadership is kind of big intro, right? They come out to daily, now that's daily now, monthly field days on farms, ranches, processing facilities, research stations, right? It's a big, broad brushstroke of what's going on in agriculture, natural resources in a particular region. And again, those are monthly in-person field days. So the second year, and though we have 16 cohorts around the state, and each cohort is approximately 30 students. So then year 2, we take a subset. People can apply to come back, and it's called Farms Advanced. And they still do monthly field days in person, but there's a smaller group, and the focus is much more so on jobs, workforce development, resume creation, networking, and doing more one-on-one with different companies than they met year 1. So that subset is about 80 throughout the state. And then we have each year, and then we have alumni that are in colleges and universities, community colleges, whatever it might be, studying ag and natural resources. And we help them as well connect to job shadows and paid internships in the industry.
I looked at it. It's going out. We're going to be publicizing it in our newsletter. It's going out this week. I saw your schedule. You guys are weeks out with content development. That is amazing. It's amazing to see that. With this idea of, really trying to cultivate the next generation of farmers, and in this current environment, what is your thoughts, and what are you thinking about in near term, long term, really trying to advocate careers in ag when it seems like ag is kind of in this dim and grim kind of situation? Small farmers operate on such thin margins, and who's going to be there at the end of this?
I always look at things, I guess, with a glass half full versus half empty. And I actually see this time as being actually really exciting for farmers and for food supply chain. Yeah, there's challenges, there's no doubt. I mean, whether you're small or large right now. I mean, like I said, my guest this morning was telling me that his contracts for processing tomatoes were canceled last week. Like he said, that's never happened in his lifetime, okay? So whether you're small or large, this is tough. But what we do know is that we absolutely need farmers, and we need people going into agriculture and environmental sciences. So that our farms program at the high school level, I want to be clear, that is not to create new farmers, okay? Our California Farm Academy, which is for adults, that is to create farmers and farm managers. Our high school programs are really for the STEM jobs in ag and environmental sciences, and all of the other things, logistics, sales, again, research, right? There's a lot of other kinds of jobs besides production. So our high school programs are really focused around that. Our California Farm Academy is focused on developing the next generation of farmers. So we have, we're trying to cover the bases, right? There's lots of different things we need to be doing. So I think of right now of being one of the questions I ask almost everybody is, what are some of the jobs you're seeing today that are most critical to whatever business company you have, and what are you seeing needs for the future? And this is going to change everything, right? COVID-19 is going to change everything. There will be a very new normal. And that will mean there'll be a lot of different kinds of jobs in ag, and in the supply chain and in the way that the supply chain works. So to me, these are these opportunities that I look at to say, yes, there's challenges. Yes, that we're going to be losing, I'm sure, farms and ranches as a part of this, just like we're going to be losing a lot of small businesses. Agriculture is not immune to this. But they're on the other side, because of people's connection and like, oh my God, where's my food coming from? I mean, I know you've heard this, and it's not anecdotal, it's real, which is that there are all these farms, your family farm including, which, hadn't been doing a CSA program, or had really seen declining numbers in their CSA box subscriptions, and now have either brought it back or are like hundreds of people, thousands of people, depending on the CSA, on waiting lists. So I don't know. I just see it's a shift, right? It just means it's a shift. It means we have to be really nimble and quick, but it also means there's opportunities that maybe there weren't there before. So I always think of these opportunities, these times, as being like, so how do we shift? How do we adjust quickly? And what are the opportunities for the future?
Yeah, and I think that is something especially you see in the farming ag world is get to work.
Yeah.
There's no time. There's no time to cry.
As my guest said this morning, he's like, this is nothing all that different for ag. Like normally it's like some huge weather thing that's disrupted everything, or some big insect infestation or whatever, right? Like we deal with this all the time. This is different. But it's still, for us, we are so used to a very fast adaptation. And yes, you're going to lose some companies and some businesses along the way. There's no doubt about that. But it also means there's openings maybe for people who didn't think they had a role before, or, an idea that they had before wasn't quite cooked, and actually it works out better now. So, that's just, I think, the nature of agriculture, is that it is so, we're so used to disruptions.
Especially for farmers, it's always something. There's always something happening. This period of time has been really interesting, especially from, for me, kind of reflecting back on what my family's doing with our farm. Yeah. A lot of farmers are working together, and there has been this regeneration of people really wanting to connect with farmers in this time of, I don't really want to go to the grocery store. I don't know where my food's coming from. People are going to farmers markets still, and farmers are working together to create systems in which they can continue to sell their products and continue to keep their businesses.
And the other thing, which is awesome, is the urban ag opportunities. Again, to me, this is going to cause, I think, a real boom in people wanting farms like in their neighborhood, right? It kind of goes back to, you've been reading the stories about, victory gardens kind of coming back and things like that. It's in that style of like, where is my real food security? Right? And so whether it's gardening in your backyard or community gardens, or it's urban farms like what we do in West Sacramento, oh my God, like all of those farmers in West Sacramento are doing very well right now.
And I was going to mention, I was really lucky to take that tour of it last summer when you guys announced, the headquarters being built and everything that was going on with your new truck. And immediately right before we had our conversation today, I was thinking about all those farms in West Sacramento.
Now the truck, unfortunately, hasn't been built yet, because all of the supplies for the truck, because it's a custom built deal, are on hold. He can't get them.
So needed now more than ever.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the crazy thing, is like now is when we really need it, and we can't get it. So it comes from a company in Canada. Called The Farmer's Truck is the name of the company, and you can look them up. They're awesome. And he literally builds them, custom built. So unfortunately, his order, everything's on hold. The chassis, the this, the that. So we originally were hoping to get it in May. don't know when we're going to get it.
Yeah. But I think this is a great example of to why you guys need this and why our communities need more than one of these trucks. We need a fleet to help with disaster situations where this comes in online, where food accessibility is becoming, a question. Like, I don't know where my food's going to come from. I can't get to the grocery store. Being able to access and deliver with people who need food is critical.
Well, and imagine if right now we did have this truck and people who are homebound, elderly, seniors, whatever, families, everybody, right? You're able to literally pull up in a parking lot at their apartment complex or whatever, in a neighborhood park. We're not supposed to be going to parks, but whatever, right? You can pull up and people can come and buy food directly from the truck, and you're using all the social distancing guidelines, you're doing all of that, and they wouldn't even have to go to their grocery store or whatever and put themselves at potentially more risk to be able to buy. And because the goal for the truck is to not just have fresh produce and fruit, but to also have staples like rice and beans and other things, right? Not everything, of course, but some of the staples. So yeah, it's a bummer. Like, at the time when you really, really need it, we don't have it. And it just makes you realize that we're not particularly resilient right now. And like I said, if there was a fleet of these, it would be awesome. So those are the kinds of things. I mean, honestly, we're putting in for some of these emergency funds, whether it's for the Sacramento, Sacramento Community Fund or the YOLO Community Fund or whatever, because it's like, this is emergency response. Food, obviously, is the basis. So if we can help, provide more access to food from the farmers that we help support in this region, then that's a big part of how we not just operate now, but how we want to operate in the future.
Could you share with us some stories about your inner city farmers and some of those urban farms and some of your students and what they're doing and what you've heard from the front lines?
Well, I think I'll stick with West Sac for now. So we have 5 farms in West Sacramento. One of which is Fiery Ginger. They actually were able to transition kind of out of, we had the lease with the school district. They were so successful that they were, with Washington Unified, they were able to take on the lease themselves, which is exactly what we want. But they're a good example of a story. So they had really been focused these last couple of years and had developed a huge market, pretty much all of their product for schools. Right? For school lunches. So huge greens, but specifically lettuce mixes. And almost all came to a halt, screeching halt, when the schools closed. Now, there are schools, Sac Unified and others, and they're still doing lunches, but maybe not to the same levels as they were before. Sac Unified probably is, because they're doing an amazing job, but others aren't. So their sales, all for the most part, they're still selling to Natomas, but a lot of that is gone. So they literally had to shift, and they had to say, what are we going to do with all of this lettuce? Like, incredible lettuce, right? And they did a real quick pivot, and they got word out and basically said, hey, we're going to do boxes. They haven't done boxes. That's not what they've been doing. They also go to the Davis Farmers Market. And they created like a grab and go box program. So people, rather than coming and pawing over everything, right? Which is, I could see why people would be a little concerned about that. They set up a box that basically is just like a CSA box. It's already all prepped and ready to go. Now you just buy the box. It's just, you get what you get, just like a regular CSA box. So they do those at the farmer's market as well. So they did the grab and go box at the farmer's market. They did the grab and go box for home delivery. And they're changing their whole crop plan for the whole year. Like, boom, everything changed. However, the response from their customers has been overwhelming. And they're getting more customers because there's all these people that are on lists on other CSAs, and they're able to shift them over. So that's a really awesome story about one of our farms that has just done an incredible job. Another one is Three Sisters Gardens, also in West Sacramento. And that's Alfred Melbourne and his wife Manuela. And they actually just became a 501c3 nonprofit organization within the last 6 months. And we'd been leasing to them at the Cummins Farm location, and they were sharing that site with another farm called We Grow Farm. And now we've given them another site, which is 5th and C. So they have 2 sites in West Sac. And unfortunately, again, they're really focused on education and getting youth out, and especially really trying to make sure that kids don't go down the wrong path and don't go towards incarceration, and get them engaged and involved early on. And so they haven't been able to do much of that, right? Because of all of the, we have to be very, very careful. So we can't get groups out and doing group volunteer days or whatever. But they do have small numbers of folks come and volunteer, including youth right now, that are helping out at the farm. And they're completely developing the new 5th and C site. And it looks absolutely gorgeous. And they're going to be up and running, and they're planting now for summer. So they're completely on target for all of the things that they had planned to do this year from the production side. It's just that they can't do the youth education and outreach part right now. But I'm sure they will be up and going again as soon as we can be. So those are 2 really great stories on the farmer side. And on the youth side, I'll share a story also from Sacramento. So we have 15 interns, paid interns, through the 1,000 Strong program in Sacramento. And those are interns at school gardens at Luther Burbank. So the Burbank Urban Garden Program, Grant Environmental Organization, which is at Grant High School, and Sacramento High School. And so those students actually started their internship with us last May. It's a year-long program. So part of that program is, of course, they get paid for work that they do at their school gardens. But we are supposed to provide them training. And 40 hours over the course of the year. Well, they've done 20 already, and we had planned to start the next ramp of training in February and complete in March. Well, they're not at their schools. We can't do the training in person. And this is really workforce development training. Again, it's the 21st century skills, building resumes, that kind of thing. So again, pivot. And so all of these students, all 15, are low-income students. Many of them do not have access to computers at home. If they have a smartphone, that's usually it. So we've provided them all with tablets, and we were able to receive funding from the Sacramento Bee Book of Dreams for part of that. And we also are utilizing tablets that we had from a previous grant from Wells Fargo, and we're giving all 15 of them tablets, not just to use right now for this training that we're doing all online on Zoom, but also they get to keep them. As long as they complete the training, which they're well on target, they get to keep them, which means that they will be able to go, most of them are seniors, into college next year, whatever it is, and outfitted with something to utilize. So they're literally on Friday, we debuted some training for them and in financial literacy. We worked with Umpqua Bank. We had one of our professionals that is a partner with us. He got on and they did Zoom with a banker. So they'd done previous to that, they did sessions from the Khan Academy and KHAN Khan Academy. It's a platform already there. They were able to utilize it and get kind of a lot of the background. And then they spent an hour with Petter Bruce from Umpqua Bank. It was supposed to be half an hour, and they were so excited and had so many questions that it went for an hour. So that's just another example of the way that we've had to quickly change utilize different resources in order to make sure that these students, that in this case high school students, are served by the programs, and that then their families are also served, and their communities, because then they are better able to complete high school, go on to their next levels of education, feel confident in that. They can get jobs, because they've had a great experience with us, and they've really built their resumes. So that's another example of a program that people probably don't know that we run, but yeah. Another
Well,
it's 15, yeah.
it's great to have you talk about it, and it's amazing this multi-layered approach you guys are taking to connect with the community and make sure that everyone is, supported. You have a lot of programs, you have a lot of work, you guys have a farm to take care of on top of everything else, and a headquarters to open, and students to take care of, and farms to watch out for. So this has been a really great conversation, and I'm really excited to see what you guys do, just on a completely, thinking about how things are going to kind of come out in ways into helping people. Just off the top of my head, I was thinking about, I don't know if you remember this, but Farm Bill, like way back, like in 2008, thinking about like new programming. I was just, how cool would it be to have someone help design a program where it's somewhat like that, but follows like a scientific algorithm in which students can continue to like, but, have to input accurate farming information to like make something work. I don't know. Just younger generation of making things interesting, especially if you're doing something online. Farming is, from experience, not something you can learn on a computer or in a book. It's sticky. It's in the dirt, 100%. So finding innovative and new ways to connect students and connect those who are interested to agriculture and farming and what is being grown is really critical. And if we can't go onto a farm and physically learn how to put in irrigation pipe, or learn how to correctly, cover crop or rototill or use a tractor, like how are we going to start, continue training? Should this happen in the future? Should this happen, with a student that might not be in a rural area that wants to learn about farming and learn about agriculture? How are you going to teach them? I think that there's a lot of opportunity in this, and as much of a challenge as it is, there is a lot of ingenuity and a lot of, innovation out of this. And I think things like the coffee with a farmer is an amazing opportunity and interesting, exciting new way to continue getting the word out and talking about the importance of farming.
Yeah, well, hopefully people learn something like I am learning something new every day from our farmers, and realizing how complicated everything is, right?
It's been exciting. I've been working quite a bit with my mom to try to tee up and organize and figure out how to use Instagram as a way to connect with farmers, as a way to, congregate everyone and create a system. And she's managed to work up a CSA program, like you said. We used to have one a long time ago, but, for any farmer driving around to CSA drop-off spots and continuing your farm work when it's just you and your partner or your spouse kind of managing your farm, it got to be too much of a challenge. But within 10 days, she's managed to find the person who launched her website, relaunch it, connect with farmers, create drop-off locations, and farmers are resilient. They don't sit down and cry and, for me, the world's sky falling. Like, no, we've got eggs to sell. We've got things to pull out of the ground, and farmers are going to fight for their businesses. So it's good to see everyone coming together.
Yep, definitely. I think it's been, like I said, there's been a lot of things that I have been watching and listening to that I've just been very excited about, a different kind of conversation about agriculture than we normally hear. Lots of complaining normally about how someone's doing something they think is wrong. And that, I'm not hearing that right now. I'm just hearing a lot more gratitude and openness and to understanding versus the constant, our food system is broken, right? How many times do we normally hear that? And I'm not saying that there isn't places where it is broken, and there's lots of work to do yet. But right now is an interesting time to say, really? Is it broken? How broke? This is an interesting time where we may be very different than other parts of the world right now as a result of a pretty incredible system. Yes, there's challenges. There's always will be challenges. Not everybody who needs the food is getting the food, and that's consistent with long time challenges in this country.
Yeah.
And those
It's
really are.
definitely exemplifying the issues that needed to be highlighted originally, which was food access, food insecurity, who's getting food, who can get it consistently, who can afford,
Who can afford.
some of the things. Before you go, I did want to ask you, is there anything you would like partners, system partners, community members to know, or anything you're doing that you need support on, or the center's working on that we can get involved in and we can help support you guys better?
I would just ask that foundations, funders, individual givers think about the fact that all of these nonprofits are all doing work to support communities, and it may not be those first responders, or it may not, like I said, it's maybe not be the people who are literally helping to deliver food to folks who are, and they deserve all of the funding that people want to give, but so do all of these other organizations that have been working to support communities day in and day out. And like in our case, I think food, kind of important, right? Being able to have that mobile market truck to be able to get out this summer, and any kinds of times in the future when we have these situations, and just in normal daily life, is really important. My request is just that let's not forget about all of the other organizations that are doing great work to support other people. Like in our case, we're supporting high school students whose families, I'm sure, are completely disrupted. And the fact that those high school students still have something to look forward to every day. Many of these high school students still don't even have curriculum up yet. They're not getting any kind of classroom curriculum. How far behind are they getting, right? But yet organizations like ours and others are still committed to helping those students right now.
I'll let you go. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alexa. I appreciate it. Okay.